Hi. Wow. Happy Thursday. And welcome to this new edition of Facebook Live, Walking the Path, the Dark Places. So this is the topic today. Like, what happens when you stumble? What happens when the structures that you've put into place don't support you any longer? What happens when you're sad, you're depressed, you're unhappy? Hi, Gustavo. Hi, Shell. Thank you for joining. Great to see you all. Um, so this idea of the dark places, what happens when, it's not all sunshine and rainbows and unicorns and fairy dust, right? What happens when we hit those dark places? That's the idea and the topic that came to me today as I was preparing to talk a little bit about this. So, when the inevitable dark places happen, right? When the inevitable contractions and constrictions happen. Hi, Amanda. What do you do? What do you do when you're walking through that place? And it's easy when it's all happy and you just had a great ceremony and you're doing great and you're on top of the world. But what happens when you are in a tight place? When you've done something that might have some permanent effect on your relationship, on your job, on any aspect of your life, right? On your health. What happens? What happens when those things occur and you can't be all, hey, Alyssa, hey, Amanda, hey, Greg. He's walking the labyrinth right now. Right on, brother. So when you're not at the top of the mountain and everything's gorgeous and beautiful and peachy keen, what do? This is the idea that I've been working with this week, as I've been walking through a little bit of a constriction, a little bit of a contraction, and yet fully aware of the abundance and love and support that I have. But yet, I don't want to suppress these feelings. I don't want to just deny them. What do? So this is what I've been doing. I wanted to share with you what happens when you're walking in the dark places. The first thing that I do and that I've been doing is to notice that this is what's going on, to notice that I'm feeling this way. Whether it's you're feeling bad or you're in the middle of a conversation with somebody and you're not acting the way that you want to act. I know we've all had those experiences of, watching ourselves like, oh my God, I'm watching myself say this shit and I don't even know who that person is. Like we've had that experience. How do we get out of that? Well, the first thing to do is the observation. That's the first key. And if you're seeing yourself talking to somebody in a certain way and or being a certain way in life, and you don't know how to get out of it, but at least you're aware of it, that's the first step. That's a huge step to just begin to be aware of what's so. And this is really the first key, is to be very honest with yourself. Let go of anything that's inauthentic. Hey, Gord, hey, Kenneth, let go of anything that's inauthentic. Anything that doesn't mirror your highest intentions about yourself. Be willing to release anything that's unhealthy, that these situations, unhealthy thoughts, anything that's inauthentic about ourselves, these are the things that begin to constrict us. So if I can be honest with myself first, being really honest, how am I feeling? What's going on here? And then begin to see that way I was acting, that way I was treating that person, that's inauthentic. That's not who I declare myself to be. That's not who I am. Or this action that I did, that's not who I really am. Who I really am is this person that's been working on all of these spiritual practices, has been working on being a beneficial presence in the world, been working on walking the path of spirituality for myself and with others. And you fall, you stumble, it's all right. Because in that moment, we just have to be honest with ourselves. I fell. I stumbled. I didn't act in the best way. I didn't act in a way that mirrors my highest intention. But if I can be honest with myself, then I can begin to release that which doesn't mirror the highest intentions for myself. So that in that way, the divine light can enter a little bit more. Hi, Ryan. Hey, BN. Great to see you. So in this way, as I can be, first step, to be authentic with myself and to really be real with what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing. In that way, I can allow something more, a divine light, to enter through me, because I know that miracles always follow. Miracles always follow when I'm true to myself. When I'm true to me, miracles always follow. So the first step, when you're in that constricted state, when you're in a retraction, when you're in a constriction, the first step is to notice, how am I being? And to be authentic and to be real with yourself. This next step is to feel that feeling, right? We don't want to suppress the feeling. We don't want to get caught by it. We don't want to get hooked by it. We don't want to go towards it. And we don't want to deny it. We don't want to spiritually bypass it. We want to be real with it, to feel your feeling. There's a really interesting study done with Tibetan monks. I was talking to one of our great guest speakers, Dr. Mario Martinez, who was a neuropsychologist, and he was working with Tibetan monks. Dig this. The Tibetans don't even have a word for emotion in their language. There's no word for emotion. The Dalai Lama had to come up with a word to describe it, and the phrase that he used was the effect of affect. All right. So they don't even have a word for emotion. Here's the key. Dr. Martinez was working with these monks. The monks themselves have a practice called enmeshment. And the first part of that practice one of those parts of that practice is to have loving kindness and forgiveness for your enemies, and then to celebrate their success. They're really working with celebrating the success of their enemies. So the Tibetan monks who have been, the Chinese have raped their nuns and taken their land and destroyed their texts. So these monks are going immediately from the situation, the anger that they feel, and going right towards loving kindness and forgiveness. Well, what happens in the body when that occurs is that anger is a effect in the body. That is an emotional effect that has a psychological and physical effect in the body. The pituitary gland releases toxic or tonic chemicals based on our emotional content. And so this emotional flood of chemicals in the body, reactions to our external stimuli, then outpicture in the body. And when the monks were going directly from seeing the experience going right to forgiveness without the middle step of feeling their feeling, what happened was that the body had to process additional chemicals to reduce the anger, which looks like neuroepinephrine and endorphins. And these, over an extended period of time, outpicture as glucose in the body. And these monks were suffering from a high rate of type 2 diabetes. So the important part about step 2, when you're in the dark place, is to feel your feeling, not to bypass that feeling. Because what happens is, by suppressing those feelings, there's a physiological effect in the body. And that physiological effect can actually outpicture as illness. So we want to be real with the way we're feeling, be authentic with the way we are feeling. That truth and integrity is the first part. And as we begin to be authentic with the way that we're feeling, hey Dee Dee, hey Heather, Jennifer, David, great to see you guys. Thank you so much. And really, really appreciate your presence here. So as we are real with our feelings, we have to also realize that how we're feeling isn't fixed. That's the other piece. We tend to think that the way we're feeling is fixed, and that not only we're fixed, but that other people are fixed. Yeah, I know how he is. I know what she thinks. I know what she's thinking right now. But when we can take a moment to realize that how I'm feeling right now won't always be this way. I won't always feel this way. As common as that sounds, as realistic as that sounds, when we're in the middle of a dark place, when we're in the middle of a contracted feeling, it feels like it's going to be like this forever. And I certainly hold other people to be a certain way. Like, I know how that person is. I know how they're going to react to this. I think I know. So the next piece of this feeling you're feeling is to step into a deep realization that the way I'm feeling isn't fixed. That there are vicissitudes of life, that the energetic expression is going to change. I saw a post on the Rythmia website that said, the moon taught me it's okay to go through phases. So we're going through our phases. We go through these ups and downs. We go through these emotional highs and lows. And so in this way, the next piece is to realize our current situation isn't fixed. I may be walking through the valley of the shadow of death, but I'm not always going to be there. And can I be with the vicissitudes of life? Can I accept what's so? It doesn't mean that I capitulate to what's so. It doesn't mean that I get caught up with what's so. It simply means that I'm abiding with it. We talk about, at Rythmia, we talk a lot about being with and not interacting with the vision that you're having during ceremony. You know, one of our examples is, you know, you've got 3 screens, you drink and you get 3 screens, and one is a unicorn, the other is a rainbow, and the other is your creepy neighbor from when you're 12 or whatever, right? That's one of the things we talk about in the opening talk. And we say, go to what's hard. Go to that creepy neighbor. You don't have to interact with that neighbor, but you do need to go towards it. You need to look at it and accept it, not get hooked by it, not repel it, but to be with it, to abide with it, to be honest and be in integrity, to be true and honest with what's going on. And in that way, we can surrender and release. That's the first piece, is that we can surrender and release. Hey, Yusuf, how you doing? We can surrender. And because when we are able to let go of that, not get hooked by it, be with it, right? Remember the Tibetan monks, you couldn't just let go. You had to first feel that feeling. You had to abide with it. You had to be with it. And then you can release it. You know, realize you're not always going to be there, and then move into a place of surrender. Observation without interaction allows us to move into a place of surrender. It's hard because we may have done something that has some real long-lasting ramifications in our life, physically, mentally, spiritually, in our relationship, in our job. We could have really been, you know, in some contracted state that would have this be. But if we can be with it without getting hooked by it, right? Without getting, oh my God, I can't believe this, or resisting it or suppressing it, just being with it, then we can then move into a place of surrender and release. Thank you, David. I need to let go of these dark places too, man. And in fact, this is why this is a challenging Facebook Live, because I've been walking in this for a little bit. And this is the process that's come to me through meditation, through the practices, is to first begin to then release and surrender, right? Trying not to control an outcome. Because when I can release, after I abide with it, after I'm with it, if I can release it, I know that whatever I release will be replaced or returned healed. Whatever I release will be replaced by something better, or that which I release will return to me healed. So trying not to control the outcome, we say at Agape, let go and let God. Right? Let go and let the spirit of all the wisdom and all the intelligence and all the power move through this situation. I don't have to be in control. In fact, the more I try to control it, the harder I try to hold on to it, the less room there is for healing to occur. The harder I try to hold on to the outcome, the harder I try to hold on and not let go, the less room there is for light to enter, the less room there is for the divine to enter. And so in this way, releasing and letting go is the next step after I've first noticed, right? 1, notice how I'm feeling. 2, be with it, abide with it, allow for those feelings. In this case of the Tibetan monks, Dr. Martinez recommended that they went to a place of righteous indignation. Right? So first they had to acknowledge there's some crap that's happened here. This is shitty, right? And then I can be indignant about it. It's okay. I'm pissed off at this. I don't like what's happening. I don't have to get hooked by it, but I can be aware of how I'm feeling. And then I can surrender. I can begin to let go. And as I let go, I'm opening up for something else to move through me. This is where we can then step into some spiritual practices that we've developed. I have some go-to principles. Go-to principles are principles for me that no matter what, they're so deeply ingrained within me that no matter how I'm feeling, when I touch these principles, they activate something within me. I remember my mom used to be very affirmative. and have an affirmative stance towards a lot of life. And in my naivete in high school and college, I say, Mom, you can't affirm your way out of a shitty situation. You know, this is shitty. This is bad, right? You can't affirm your way out of it. Hey, Steve. But what I realized was my mom was right. It's not about just saying positive things. But here's the deal. You can't wait to get happy. You have to get happy and wait. That's the key, because there's a vibrational match for how we're feeling. So if I can begin to anchor into some principles, some go-to principles that help me feel better unattached to a specific condition, right? My happiness isn't attached to a condition or a specific situation, but if I can anchor into a principle that helps me begin to create the vibratory feeling tone of happiness, then I'm getting happy and waiting for that vibrational match to come to me. That's what we're talking about. So some go-to principles are based on the truth that happiness is not conditional. Happiness is not based on my condition. Happiness is based on my ability to release and let go and surrender and step into a realization of some truth that I know. So for me, for example, some of my go-to principles, and I think out of this talk, if you could find some principles that are meaningful to you and have them in your gig bag, so when the inevitable vicissitudes of life, when those dark places come, and we all go through a dark night of the soul, we all go through a stumble or a trip or a feeling of contraction. It's the way it's set up. We have to have a contrast between this expansive state and a contracted state. So when we're in that contracted state, realizing that it's not fixed, it's not always going to be there, I can then release and surrender to what's so by accepting it, and then move into a state of generation, generating a feeling tone that will be matched by the universe. So one of my go-to principles is I am loved and adored beyond imagination. I'm loved and adored beyond imagination. That doesn't mean that I have a lot of Facebook friends. That doesn't mean that people are walking around going, oh my God, you're so fabulous. That means that the very nature of my existence, by right of consciousness, I am loved and adored by the divine. And it is proven and shown. You can look everywhere in your life and see beyond your wildest dreams. Everything is working together for your good. You are loved and supported beyond imagination. I simply need to look at a plate of food in front of me to see how much had to work together for that food to get to my plate. Somebody had to plant that food. There had to be a seed. Somebody tended that. There was somebody that harvested it. A truck driver had to drive it somewhere. Somebody had to make a road for that truck to go on. That truck had to be arrived, unloaded. Somebody had to purchase that product. It had to be available in a store. Look at all the things that are working together for my good, just for that meal to arrive on my plate. Then I had to have the money to buy it, some place to cook it, and then it finally landed right here in front of me, nourishing my body. Just looking around at life, we can see in the most simple and mundane aspects of our lives, the minutia of our lives show how loved and supported we are. Loved and supported beyond imagination. We can say by the very fact that we exist, we are loved and supported beyond imagination, because the odds of us being here are 4 trillion to 1. The odds of that sperm and that egg meeting, 4 trillion to 1. You won the biggest race already. And by right of consciousness, we are loved and adored. We are given the gift of life without condition. There's no condition on our gift of life. Hey, Alyssa. Hey, Dee Dee. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And this is the truth. We can say that the presence of God, we can say that spirit, we can say that Mother Ayahuasca, we can say that Mother, Father God, that Mother Nature, Pachamama, whatever you want to call it, the universe loves us. How do we know that it's loving? Because we're given the gift of life without any condition. We can do whatever we want with it, given this gift of life. So from these simple places, I can say that my go-to principle, 1, I am loved and adored beyond imagination. Take that for yourself. I am loved and adored beyond imagination. I have these written out. And there was a time in my life before I had them fully memorized where I put these reminders on my phone for alarms. I put an alarm on my phone, and the alarm would go off at a random time, and I'd see this, and I'd go, I'd just stop whatever I'm doing, and the alarm would go off. I'd say, okay, I'm loved and adored beyond imagination. I am loved and adored beyond imagination. I am loved and adored beyond imagination. And begin to really anchor into that truth. That's one of my go-to principles. Second go-to principle, everything is working together for my good. Everything is working together for my good. It's always working together for my good, no matter how dark it is, no matter how bad it is, no matter how hard it is, it's for my good. And I know that every single one of us have had situations in our lives where going through whatever we were going through, we wouldn't want to go through it again. It was the worst thing that ever happened to us. But on the other side of that situation, we're a better person. It's made us who we are today. It's had some effect on the creation of our very sense of self, our very lives. So we can say with truth that everything is working together for my good. It's all either a blessing or a lesson of some sort. So I can look out upon the situation that I'm feeling and know all is well, everything is working together for my good. Even this contraction that I'm going through, even this dark place that I'm walking through is for my good. Even having to get up and do a Facebook Live when you don't feel like it is for my good, because I'm feeling such an amazing energetic response right now from all of your wonderful comments, and just the act of having to generate something, right? Beyond, without having it attached to a condition. Right? I don't feel like it. So what? I went ahead and did it. Something amazing happened. I released and let go. I dealt with how I was feeling, got up to the plate, and something is moving through me and helping me to feel better. I got happy and waited. I didn't wait to get happy. I got happy and waited, and there is a vibrational match, something coming to me. Another go-to principle, no matter what happens, I can handle it. No matter what happens, I can handle it. That's a great principle. I had that written on the wall in my room for a long time, because we have a constant, a normal aspect is fear, doubt, worry, not enoughness, lack, and limitation. This is a constant thing playing through our minds, right? And so if I'm always in a place of fear and lack and limitation, then I fear that I won't be able to handle what's going on. So when that incessant chatter of my mind is happening, I can say to myself, all right, so yeah, that bad situation could occur, but whatever happens, I can handle it. So if I did something that might have long-lasting effects on a relationship, on my health, on my job, on whatever, if I've stumbled, if I'm in a dark night of the soul, I can remember that no matter what happens, I can handle it. And why? Why no matter what happens, I can handle it? Because we must allow ourselves to realize our power. We are powerful beyond imagination. We have all the power within us. When we say in the Bible, when it says that we are, have all of the, we were made in the image and likeness of the divine, it doesn't mean that the divine looks like me or looks like you. It doesn't look like anything, but that we have all the faculties, all the qualities of the divine within us. Nature is in us. We're a part of nature, and the wholeness of nature is within us. It's the principle of the holographic nature of the universe, that the part and the whole, the part contains all of the qualities of the whole. So we have all of the power of the divine, all of the intelligence, all of the love, all of the beauty, all of the joy, all of the excellence, all the intelligence, all the wisdom, all the creativity of the divine are within us. So we have to know that we have the pure spiritual power to see. We have the intellectual power to tap into the one mind. We have the emotional power to empathize with others and to relate to them. And we have the physical power, unlimited physical power is ours for the taking when we step into a deep realization of how very powerful we are. So I can say that no matter what happens, I can handle it because I have all of the qualities of the divine. So whatever problem I'm looking at, I'm not looking at the problem. The problem is looking at me, and what's behind me is the divine power, baby, the divine truth, all of the intelligence, all of the power, all of the love, all of the joy. We're talking about the power that spins planets without human compulsion, the power that is operating in the mitochondria of our cells, the farthest recesses of the universe and the smallest recesses of the quantum field. Same power, one life, one energy, my life, your life, That power is ours. So that's another go-to principle that I have. No matter what happens, I can handle it, because the I is the I am presence. The I am presence, the divine that is moving through me. And when we can release that fear and connect with being a powerful person, because it comes from the only power, right? It's not that I can handle it. It's because my power comes from the only power, the one power in the universe, divine love. And we allow that divine love to radiate through us, in us, and as us. That is the peace, right? So here we go. Hey, Dominic. Hey, Zinlin. Beautiful. Thank you for joining us. Miss you too. This is really the key. Whatever happens, I can handle it, because there's a one power, and that power is operating through me, right? It's not me, it's the divine power, the one source. So that's how I can say that I'm powerful, and no matter what happens, I can handle it. Another one of my go-to principles: everything always works out for me. I encourage you to just say this all the time. Just be walking down the street and go, you know what? Everything always works out for me. Be in that vibratory frequency, because the normal vibratory frequency is one of fear, doubt, and worry. Oh shit, what if this doesn't work out? Well, going back to our principles, if everything's working together for our good, and that I'm loved and adored beyond imagination, and no matter what happens, I can handle it, then damn sure everything always works out for me and for you. That's one of the go-to principles. So here are the 4 principles one more time. I'm loved and adored beyond imagination. Everything is working together for my good. I can handle it no matter what happens. I have everything inside of me. No matter what happens, I can handle it. And number 4, everything always works out for me. So hanging out in that field, this is generating a feeling of happiness and contentment that isn't based on condition. It's not based on a condition. Oh, I got a raise. Oh, I'm going on vacation. Oh, it's sunny outside. Great. All of those things are wonderful. But we can be the generator of happiness on our own, independent of condition. When we can do that, independent of how we're feeling, independent of the dark place that I'm in, then a vibratory match for that joy, that energy, that excellence, that happiness comes to us. It comes to us because the energy, because we live in a reflective universe that is always reflecting and revealing that which we are projecting out into it. It's like a mirror. Ernest Holmes has a beautiful explanation of the reflective nature of the universe. Hey, Luke. Hey, Lorenzo. He says that the universe is like a mirror. You stand in front of a mirror, and the image that you cast into that mirror comes back to you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pray to it. You don't have to cajole it. You don't have to beg it or beseech it. You know that whatever you put into that mirror is reflected right back, right? So what you're putting in, you're getting out. That's the reflective nature of the universe. So if we can anchor into the truth of that we're loved and adored beyond imagination, that everything is working together for our good, that no matter what happens, I can handle it, and that everything always works out for me, then I am putting into that mirror a vibrational match that is not conditioned that is not based on a condition, but is based on my own ability to generate that. That's reflected back to me. So when we're walking in the dark places, right, when we're having those contracted feelings, when I've stumbled, when I've made a mistake, when I've done something that I shouldn't have done, and now I'm experiencing the ramifications of it. 1, notice how we're feeling. 2, feel your feeling. Be with it. Abide with it. Don't bypass it like those Tibetan monks. Step into the righteous indignation. Don't get caught by it, but be with it. And then when we're observing without interacting, we can move to a place of self-generation by anchoring ourselves into some go-to principles, some principles that we know fulfill us and remind us of the truth of our being. I shared with you some of my principles, and that's kind of where I'm at. I want to end this. I love this book, Science of Mind 365, Ernest Holmes. What a brilliant mystic. Today, May 30th. It's a short reading, but I think it really encapsulates everything that's been going down, and then we'll end. So we'll just end with Ernest Holmes. He writes, first a quote from the Bible: "The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, and peace," from Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. And then Ernest Holmes writes, And this is short, but hang in there. It's good, baby. He writes, we should look across the new horizon of the greater possibility that resides within each one of us and meet the living God and feel the embrace of God's presence and come at last to know the infallibility of this power. From out of the great mind that is God, the way of life is made perfect and straight and immediate. It is made happy and whole and prosperous. God's love always embraces us. God's wisdom is always within us, and God's joy is ours to share. Just as surely as tomorrow will come and the sun will rise again across the darkness of the horizon and spill its beauty and warmth to awaken the valleys into fertility, so shall this be a new day in our life, bringing us into a greater joy of living because of a greater consciousness of the Almighty within our souls. I dwell in the house of love. My dwelling place is filled with peace and eternal calm. Love attends me in my home of the soul, and joy awaits upon me in the secret place of the Most High. My sorrow is turned to gladness, and my shame to rejoicing. My tears are wiped away, and the sunlight of the Spirit shines through the clouds of depression and lights the way to heaven. Man, that's exactly what I was going through. The darkness and the sadness and all of that heaviness and restriction and contraction. Woo! I got to thank you, because doing this today lifted me. Doing this today reminded me of the truth. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have this opportunity, and I'm grateful that you all were here. I wish you peace and richest blessings in every aspect of your life, knowing that everything is working together for your good, knowing that no matter what happens, you can handle it, knowing that you are loved and adored beyond imagination, and that everything always works out for you. Peace and blessings. I'll see you next week.